Hello and welcome everybody back to the Inside Our Galaxy podcast. I'm your host, Eric Hernandez, as always. 6 available points, 6 points gotten. We're going to talk about our great week that we had with both of the games against the Colorado Rapids and the Portland Timbers, both scorelines being 3-2. The Triple Ps are back, possibly. They're getting their mojo back. Obviously a lot of contributions with them. We're going to talk about our thoughts, our opinions about those games, of course, and what this might mean going into Leagues Cup and also just for the rest of the season in general. So obviously there's a lot of interesting things to talk about in that aspect. Of course, we got some Galaxy news, Marco Royce updates, Ventura County updates. Also talk about a little bit about the All-Stars, how Ricky and Gabriel Peck made it to the All-Star squad. So we'll talk about that. And we'll also give our preview for our first Leagues Cup match, which is against the San Jose Earthquakes. So we'll talk about that as well, which will be next week, next week. So we're going to talk about that as well. So yeah, a lot of things to talk about, a lot of good conversations to have. And of course, with me as always is my co-host, LA Galaxy Central. How you doing, man?
Doing very good, of course. Obviously, the Galaxy had a very good week. That was very fun. Obviously, I had my last game on Saturday before I leave, so it was good to end up on a win. And yeah, very good. It was a very good week for the Galaxy. I was very happy about it, and I'm definitely looking forward to talking about it.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Because obviously, going into this week, we had a lot of concerns, right? We were talking about, possibly could the Galaxy get their first loss in the digs? And, we weren't feeling too optimistic, especially after that FC Dallas game. But now we get the 3 points for both games, 6 total points this week. Obviously, we got a lot of production from this game. Still some things to be concerned about, definitely for sure, but we still got to see a lot of positives during this week, especially with our DPs, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So let's talk about the Colorado game first, because obviously that was the Wednesday game last week. And like I said, it was a 3-2 win against the Colorado Rapids. You had goals from Fagundes, you had goal from Ricky Puig and Joseph Paintstill in this game. So you got to see production from those guys. Of course, all those 3 goals came in the first half. Colorado also gets their 2 goals in the first half, and then seemingly we parked the bus in the second half. We managed to hold on for the rest of the second half and the rest of the game, and we managed to get the 3 points. So obviously it wasn't necessarily, I guess you can say, the prettiest. Sure, it was flashy because of the goals, but necessarily wasn't the prettiest game, you can say, but we still get the 3 points. We still get the outcome that we wanted, which was the 3 points against the Colorado Rapids, who are a good team for sure. So it was a good win. But yeah, man, obviously let's talk about this. What are your thoughts about that game, and how'd you feel about that result overall?
Yeah, honestly, I'm very high on that Colorado performance. I think we played very well. It was a very good game. Honestly, I think the scoreline was kind of a little bit misleading. Like it said 3-2, so yes, the game was close. But for the whole game, I felt like the Galaxy were on the front foot. They were really in control. I think the scoreline just became close eventually because of some reffing decisions, which I was not a huge fan of. And I think in the second half, I think Greg Vanney, the way he managed the game, just was kind of not wanting to attack, and that kind of, limited options for us and made it very difficult for us to get that 4th goal. But in terms of our performance, I think it was very good, honestly. I think everyone was really good. I think we played really well. I think we showed up in a game we had to show up, right? Like we even talked about in the preview, like if we won this game, we'd go 8 points clear of Colorado, but if they won, they'd come within 2 points of us. So obviously it was mandatory that we showed up this game, and I think we put in a very good performance. We'll talk about the players for sure, but Joseph Paintstill, maybe he listened to the podcast last week and heard what I had to say about him, because this guy came playing out with something to prove, and he really did prove it and step it up this game. And the other DPs too had an amazing week. I think it was a good performance overall. The Colorado game was a good performance. I think the scoreline was a little bit misleading. I think we actually played better than a 1-goal victory, but the reffing definitely wasn't good. Like, just to name off some of the things, like not playing advantage on our first goal. How do you not give an advantage right there? That's just terrible. Then the penalty kick call, that was very soft. Like, if you gave a penalty kick for holding, well, then we'd be taking penalty kicks on every single corner kick that's given. So I didn't agree with that either. So I think we got a little bit unlucky in some areas to concede, but overall, I thought we played very well.
Yeah, I think we came in with the right foot, right? Like, obviously, like I mentioned, we got 3 goals in the first half, and seemingly, that was what you needed. You needed to go on with the right tone, the right mindset, just get at it against this Colorado team. And yeah, like you said, obviously, this was a game where if we would have won, we would have been 8 points clear, and if we would have lost, Colorado's would have been 2 points, behind us, right? So, obviously, this was a game you needed to win for sure. And, we go on the right footing on this one. Obviously, I would like to, give credit for Greg Vanney for like at least just some of the adjustments he made in this game, and especially how he went into this game, right? Because obviously, last game we were talking about, well, what's going to be the option because we can't put Fagundes at the nine, because obviously that didn't work, and do we have to put in someone like a Ruben Ramos maybe potentially as a long shot to possibly get something going, right? But it was obviously just the simple switch of just putting Paintstill in the nine, which was something that really made a big difference in this game. Obviously, if you compare it to the Dallas game and to the Colorado game, and really for both games, right? The team, the offense just looked more freely. They looked like they were able to move a lot better. They didn't look congested. Everybody was, getting some sort of production. They were getting the performances that they needed, right? Peck, got his looked effective like he always has. Fagundes, gets his goal. Paintstill seemingly again had a bounce back game compared to the last 3 months. So definitely for sure he definitely looked like his self early on in the season, right? So obviously the offense looked a lot more freely in this game. So I think that's something that you needed in this game where the offense just needs to, have the connection, and they had a connection this game. Of course, Ricky got his goal and stuff like that, right? So, yeah, obviously, I think performance-wise, it was good, and I agree that the reffing was kind of iffy on here and there, especially for that, the advantage. Like, how do you not give advantage on that? Like, it just didn't, like, that's almost like a rookie mistake for a ref, and that's an experienced ref, too, so it's just like, I don't know how you didn't.
My bad. Like, come on.
What's up?
The ref just said, like, after that, he said, oh, my bad, my bad. Like, if you're a player, it's just like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, like, again, it's almost like a rookie mistake. Like, you can't just be doing that as a ref, right? It just was, it was a shit call. But at the end of the day, we still got our goals in the sense, like, we still managed to get some production. And yeah, I mean, obviously, like, and also the penalty as well, right? Like, obviously, like he's mentioned, like, yeah, Mickey Amane did kind of have a hold in there between the players, but it wasn't really much of a, was it a penalty? Like, could you really give the penalty for that? And like you said, like, if that's a reason for giving a penalty, then, there would be a penalty game, like, almost like every time, right? So, like, I think that was just a bit of a soft call. Cabral did score on us again, which, I guess it's another bit of poetic justice. I mean, we are paying him to score that goal on us, so not necessarily the best, but still, we managed to hold on in the second half. We we seemingly parked the bus, but hey, you know what? If it got us the win, it got us the win, and yeah, I mean, Greg Vanney made the right adjustments in those games too. So yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it is a little bit of a. The score doesn't tell you the whole story, but definitely for sure, it was a game that the team needed to bounce back on, and yeah, they did. They bounced back, and we got the 3 points, against Colorado.
I just don't agree with parking the bus in the second half, though. Like, I feel like we had more offensive players on the field and offensive personnel on the field. I don't understand being up 1 goal in your own home, just completely parking the bus and just trying to hold on to a 1 goal lead. Like, it was too early for that, too. Like, if there's 20 minutes, 15 minutes in the game left and he does that, I'm like, all right, but he wanted to do that for a full 45 minutes, and it just did not look good. You never really thought we were going to score the fourth goal, really, and I don't know. I just don't agree with doing that at home. I think we should have been a little bit more attacking in that second half to try to get maybe the second goal.
Yeah, definitely. Because I've always said too, it's like you got to get that extra goal to really solidify yourself, and especially for a close game in a sense like that, with being 3-2 going into the second half, you got to get one more goal in there to, and I wouldn't say that would have like solidified the game, but it definitely would give you a little bit more cushion in the second half. But I mean, still though, I guess the defense still kind of stepped it up in that second half. They still managed to do things right. I guess the midfield was probably a little bit more defensive in that second half as well. So I mean, at the end of the day, they did their job. They got it done. And again, that's where kind of like the aspect of like, it wasn't necessarily the prettiest game, but you still got the job done, like at the end of the day. And I think like it wasn't the most entertaining second half, and wasn't necessarily the half you wanted to see, but at the end of the day, it got the job done. And I think Greg Vanney sort of made the right adjustments in that one. And yeah, I mean, we still ended up getting the win. So I guess it was a little bit, disappointing in the second half, but still you get the 3 points. And I think that's where you kind of like, all right, then. So, we managed to survive that game. We get the 3 points, and it's a pretty big, huge 3 points to, to take from that game as well.
I mean, you could say the second half wasn't very fun, and I'd actually agree with you. But like for this week in general, both the games were super fun to be at. Very back and forth, a lot of energy going on. It was very fun to be at for sure. Like you could say it wasn't the most entertaining at all times, but I think in general, when you look at these matches, they were super entertaining. Actually, you had two 5 goal thrillers, right?
No, yeah, for sure. Like I said, it wasn't the prettiest, but it definitely was the flashiest, right? Like you got to see a lot of goals from both teams, and especially from your star players, which was, what we needed to see, especially after that Dallas game, right? Because none of our players really were there; they were flat, and they really just needed this boost of confidence going into, to really finish out the week, right? So, yeah, I mean, it was definitely flashy for sure. You got to see everybody really produce in that offense and your star players, and again, we'll talk about the players, shortly in a bit, but still though, like you got to see your players really contribute in that game. And I think that's what made it exciting and definitely flashy for those games for sure. Yeah. But you have any other points about the game, or should we like move on to players or anything like that?
I will say, like, not only just for this game, but this week in general, I did not expect to score 6 goals in 2 games. If you told me that was going to happen, I wouldn't believe it without a number 9. But here we are, and we did that, so that's really good to see.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Like I think that was definitely not expected, and for sure, like I mentioned before, it was like it's just a simple change that they made, putting Paintston the 9. Like I don't know, like did you feel like when you saw that happening, did you think that was going to be like the because obviously last week we were talking about options and solutions. Like, did you ever think that option was going to be the solution? Is just simply just switching Painstone Fagundes, and like, did you really think that was going to be as effective as it was?
I mean, I've always said of Pencil, like even when he was struggling, like I was trying to believe in him. I was trying to, try to gain confidence that he would come back and perform better. But when I saw him at the 9, like I wasn't sure because like at left winger it wasn't really working out for him. He wasn't really playing well. Obviously, he was never gonna take Peck's side on the right. So it was worth a try up top, and he has played second striker before at his club Genk in Belgium, so he has experience doing it. It's not like he's never done it before. So I'm like, okay, maybe this could work. I didn't know how it was gonna go, so I don't know if I felt confident, unconfident. I was just like, let's just watch and see what happens and let's give it a go. But yeah, obviously it worked well. I think he performed better. I think the offense performed better. It was better than starting Miguel Berry, obviously. And obviously Ruben Ramos was with the Olympic team, so I don't even know if he could have played this game. So yeah, it was definitely worth the try, and I think it worked out well.
Yeah, and again, like I didn't expect much of it either because it was just a simple switch, right? And like even in the Dallas game, there was points where Payne still was like kind of playing in the 9 position and didn't really work. But like once he started on this one, it made wonders. And like I said, they moved freely. They looked a lot more better. There was a lot more connection with the offense, which what we didn't have in the FC Dallas game. So it was just like yeah, like it really worked out for this one, and I didn't really expect it. I didn't expect 3 goals in the first half, but hey, I mean, it worked, and it was a good. I guess you can say this was a good solution for this week, right? Like it worked. It worked out in our favor, and we got to see production of that offense. So definitely for sure, it worked, and worked much better than I expected to be for sure. Oh, sorry, my bad. All right. But anyways, you want to talk a little bit about the players now before or do you have any other final points before we move on?
No, that'll do it.
All right, for sure. Let's talk about the players in this one. So let's start off with the defense. Of course, you had John McCarthy at goal. You had Mickey Yamane at right back. You had Yoshida as your center back. Neil started this game, right? If I remember correctly. So Neil started as your center back as well. And then you had Cuevas actually at left back in this game, which was kind of interesting to see. I mean, I guess after a bit of a poor performance from John Nelson against Dallas, I guess they wanted to make the switch there, putting Cuevas in the left back spot. But how'd you feel about the defense in this game? What are your thoughts about it? And yeah, just break it down for me.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like our defense was pretty solid that day. Unlike the Portland game, which we'll get into, I feel like it was worse that game. I feel like this game, like I said earlier, the scoreline doesn't really reflect how we played. Yes, we conceded 2 goals, but I think we did get a little bit unlucky with some of the goals that we did concede. And I feel like a lot of the players played really well. I think Cuevas had a pretty positive game at right back. And I will say about Cuevas, like, I wouldn't call it a breakout year for him this year, but I do think he's gotten better to the point where it's noticeable. Like last year, I didn't really want to see him at all. I even said I'd rather see Leardam than him, but this year Cuevas has gone actually better, and maybe we don't need to get a backup right back if he can step up the way he has when he's been called upon a little bit this season. Offensively, I think Cuevas played really well. Defensively, he could still definitely use some work, but even then, like it's good to see at least that he's getting better. That's definitely a positive thing to see. Yamani at left back, honestly, I don't know if that worked out very well. I feel like he did okay, but you could tell that wasn't his natural spot. He didn't look very comfortable there. I think the center backs did a really good job like they normally do, and McCarthy made some good stops, some really important stops for both of these games, but even in this Colorado game too. We talked about the DPs having a very good weekend. Absolutely they did, but McCarthy also had a very good weekend. I think he was a big part, with us getting these wins too.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think the defense had a, they had a good game, in my opinion. Yeah, Yamane was in a very awkward position because they was not in his normal position. And you're right about Cuevas. Like like this season, he's definitely gotten better. He definitely had some moments where he looks a lot more reliable, and that's what you want from a young player, right? You want to see the growth, you want to see the development from your player, and he seemingly has developed you know, a good amount, I guess. He looks a lot better, and you're right. Maybe we don't need to see a backup right back at for the transfer window. Maybe you could. That obviously, Kuntz is going to have to, you know, you know, I guess deal with or not deal with that, but just really, I guess, try to think about that. But for sure, like I guess Cuevas did have a pretty positive game in this one, for sure. And then yeah, I mean, I guess our defense played very well. I think of the combination of Yoshida and Neo has always been great this season. I mean, the experienced guy and the young player is always a really good balance, and you saw that in this game. Just the good balance that they had between each other, and of course McCarthy just having again the clutch moments, right? Like that's something that we've liked about McCarthy is that he has the clutch moments. He can get those stops. Because really, how many goals like this season has McCarthy really been at fault? Like I don't think you can really say many. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the kind of the problem that we've had with goalkeepers in
Probably
the past.
one.
Yeah, like
The
I mean,
Houston game.
oh, definitely for sure. But like, but I'm saying it's just like, but again, that's still really the only one you can think about, right? But and compared to goalkeepers in the past, we've always said like, like the goalkeepers, like they kind of lose us games, and I don't think really McCarthy has lost you a game. You know what I mean? Like some players haven't lost you games that way. So McCarthy definitely again still being clutch in those clutch moments, but. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think we were unlucky. I think the first goal we definitely could have been better, and then the second goal with the penalty, like I mean, again, it was a soft call. I mean, McCarthy still blocked the shot. Like, I mean, he still did his job there, but unfortunately, they got there for the rebound, which was unfortunate. But still, though, I think the defense didn't play that bad. Of course, second half they shut it down completely. So, I mean, I guess it wasn't a complete poor performance. So I guess you could say it was a good performance overall from that side of the team. Do you have any other thoughts about the defense before we move on into the midfield?
I would just say one thing about the defense in general, though. Like, I think, going into preseason, which to be fair, we had no idea what it was going to be like, but at the time, we didn't understand, like, what going from Caligari to Yamane and Bond and McCarthy would really mean. Like, Caligari was really good, very promising young player, but I do think Yamane is definitely better than him, and we just thought, like, oh, it was a good right back to a good right back. When in all honesty, right now, it's like you went from a good right back to a great right back, honestly. And from Bond to McCarthy, like McCarthy struggled a little bit in the second half of the season last year with LAFC, and obviously Jonathan Bond was pretty bad most of the year. So we just thought like, oh, we're going from this kind of bad goalkeeper now to this like below average goalkeeper. Where in reality, it's kind of like we went from this bad goalkeeper to this like probably this year like at least average goalkeeper in the league, probably even a little bit slightly above average this year. So I think, some of our additions defensively, like we didn't understand at the time, but it's actually been a pretty big upgrade now, which kind of leads to a lot of our success, of course.
Definitely for sure. Like I mean, obviously preseason talk is always going to change once it gets into the
Definitely,
season,
yeah.
right? Because I mean, obviously, like I remember, like when we were talking about preseason, we were like, this defense doesn't look like it's gotten any better. Like they haven't cut their goals in half. Now, obviously, I don't know exactly what the goal difference is right now off the top of my head, but we have gotten better defensively. I think we definitely have more of a balance, and like you mentioned, the additions that we have, it allowed to be there to be more balance. It's not just necessarily the veteran and the youth that we have in that defense. It's like a lot of things. It's the skill set, it's the talent, right? So definitely for sure the defense looks a lot better this season. But again, they still could improve in some sort of sense. Definitely, especially with this last stretch of the season, we got to be in form. The defense needs to straighten up a little bit, try to find some ways to be better. But still though, like I think in this game and just in general in the season, you're not too mad about the defense. You're definitely a little bit more positive about how this defense has turned out, and they could be better. I mean, there was at one point where they got three shutouts in a row, right? So it's like you got to like there is still some potential for the defense that they can be good. So hopefully they get back to that at some point. But yeah, anyways, that is the defense, of course, for this game. Let's talk about the midfield going into this one. So you had Ricky Puig, you had Mark Delgado, and you had Edwin Cerrillo. Obviously, the midfield, I don't know how necessarily I feel about it, because just the fact that when we did the change with Paint still being the number 9, I feel like and especially in the Portland game, which we'll talk about. But I feel like the midfield I feel like it was a little exposed at times for the midfield. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but I don't know necessarily at whole the midfield played great. But what are your thoughts about the midfield? How'd you feel about that one going into this game?
No, I totally agree with your take about the midfield, and we can definitely get into that for sure. What I would say about the midfield is I think offensively they're playing well, but defensively it's just been too easy these last two games for our opponents. And yeah, for this game, like, I don't know. Honestly, I don't think they played great. Cerrillo, I don't think played very well. Delgado played pretty good. He did a good job. And Ricky Pooch had some good moments too. Some really good passes on the ball, but also defensively, he's not going to give us much either, which is kind of why I said, like, I think offensively, our midfield is playing well, but obviously, if you play in the midfield, you have to play on offense and you have to play on defense. You can't just, only have the ball and want to attack. So, I mean, that's what I would kind of say. There's kind of an imbalance in the midfield right now, is the way I'd put it.
And I think you saw it within both of these games because, especially if you look, and again, I'll talk about it more in the Portland game because I think you can see it more there. But if you look at even the Cabral goal, like I felt like Cabral kind of went in there really easily, and he had a lot of space, to get into that right position to get into that goal, right? And so like I think again, it's like sort of kind of the idea that like Eric Zavaleta had last year, because there was one point where Eric Zavaleta was kind of like not necessarily bashing the midfield, but obviously he even said at one point, if the midfield doesn't do a good job defensively, that makes it harder for the defense. And I know a lot of people gave Zavaleta shit because he's Eric Zavaleta, so he's gonna get the all the shit that he can get. But he has a point. Like if if your midfield doesn't play well defensively, gives you that gives your defense a lot more to have and a lot more struggle. So like you can definitely see that within this game, within both of these games, really. But definitely for sure in this game, at least for the Cabral goal, like that kind of like the our midfield looked a little bit exposed in a sense. But I mean, if you want to talk about individually, obviously Ricky Pooch still did his thing. Mark Delgado still played solid. And then Edwin Cerrillo could play better for sure. Like I think he could play better. And I think, this kind of goes back to what you said when we had like Fagundes playing in the midfield, is that there was a defensive structure. There's not really much of a defensive structure in this one. And that leaves us to be exposed, and that leaves us to be a little bit more vulnerable, especially on counterattacks. And you definitely saw that, at least for the Cabral goal for sure.
I would definitely say about our midfield too is we turn the ball over just way too much in way too many dangerous areas. Like honestly, right now in the season, that's probably our biggest problem because with the set pieces, obviously that was a big talking point. But I feel like over the last maybe 2 months, like we've actually gotten significantly better at defending set pieces to the point where I'm not going to say it's not a weakness of us anymore because obviously it is, but I feel like almost the turnovers in midfield that we're giving up almost are a bigger problem right now. I don't know if you would agree, but I just feel like we're turning over the ball just way too much right now.
Yeah, I agree with you on that aspect too. And again, like you can't turn over the ball in the midfield because it gets these teams close, right? Like again, Colorado, like I think we could have possibly, put out Colorado very early on. Maybe this wouldn't have been a 3-2, right? But because of the moments that the midfield turns over the ball and there's not much of a defensive structure in the midfield, that just leaves teams to really keep it within the game with us, right? Like that keeps it close with us, and again, we got to find a way to minimize that. And again, I don't think the midfield right now really has that. I don't know what the solution that could be. Again, you could put Fagundes back in there. Obviously we don't have Brugman right now, so obviously once Brugman is back, does that have a change in the structure? So obviously right now there is a bit of a, definitely a bit of a concern in the midfield, but I don't know, like maybe there can be some fixes, but at the same time, like we got to limit those turnovers because that just, that could be the difference between whether we win a game or not. So, definitely got to limit those turnovers for sure. All right. Anything else you want to say about the midfield before we go into the offense?
Well, one thing I have to say is, did Fagundes start in the midfield? I don't know if Cerrillo started in Colorado. Did he start that game? I'm not sure. I don't remember. I know he started versus Portland, but I don't know if he started versus Colorado.
Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think he did start with Colorado.
I don't think so, no. But I remember when he came on, he didn't play very well. I do remember that.
Yeah,
we should go look it up real quick.
Yeah, we should probably look it up real quick. But definitely for sure. Now, who was in the midfield then? Because now
I think it was Fagundes. Fagundes was in the midfield, I think. I'm pretty sure.
Well, no, because I think Fagundes was more still playing out wide, so I don't know if that was...
Oh, yeah, because they had Paintsell in that, and so he was probably playing out there.
Yeah,
maybe
so
Cerrillo did start, honestly. I don't know. Make sure to double check that.
Yeah. obviously this is, our preparation that we have. So,
Yeah.
but anyways, no, yeah, Edwin Cerrillo started. Yeah, we were
Okay.
right. Okay,
I
so
thought he came on. Okay.
yeah, for a second I thought he did too. Yeah, I guess I was tripping, but no, he did start. He was on the card, or in
Right.
the lineup. So that's good. We managed to
We make
talk
a
the
lot of
right.
changes though. To be fair to us, we make a lot of changes in a lot of different positions, so it can be easy to lose track of.
Yeah, it can be, but definitely for sure, we got it right. So no, we didn't get it
All
wrong
right,
there.
perfect.
All right, but for sure, midfield definitely could be better. Is definitely what we can say. But
Defensively.
defensively, yeah. But yeah, any other points you want to talk about, or should we move on to the offense?
Yeah, definitely got to limit the turnovers for sure because those can be very costly. But other than that, and be a little bit better defensively, at least, you got the production offensively, which we'll get into.
Yeah, and let's get into that offense, right? So, starting offense, you had Joseph Paintstill, like we mentioned, in the 9 position. You had Peck on the right, and you had Fagundes on the left, on the wing. So, and like we mentioned, a lot of goals in this game, a lot of production within the offense, and yeah, I mean, how'd you feel about the players in this one? How'd you feel about their performances?
Yeah, definitely a very productive first half for sure. I think Fagundes played really well. He's a player, honestly, I really like, and I'll admit that I was wrong about him when I said like maybe we should try to move on for him because of his contract in May. Like I just think like it's good to have a guy on your roster that wants what's best for the team and doesn't really want to get himself going. And I do think he creates a lot of offensive structure for us, creates a lot of movement. Is a very smart player who understands the league very well. So I mean, I'll just admit, like I was wrong about Diego Fagundes. I didn't really understand the value that he brought, but now that I've seen it on a more, I guess, consistent level, because he's pretty much started every single game now, I've come to appreciate like, yes, we need this guy on our team because he presents a lot for us. And obviously, he played very well. He got the opening goal. Great pass from Gabriel Peck over the top two. That was great vision to find him over the Colorado defense. So that was really good. Joseph Painstill had a bounce back game, which finally we got production from him against a team other than San Jose. So that was really good. Obviously, I will say his goal was pretty easy. It was just an easy tap in, and the assist was just a layoff to Ricky Pooch. But hey, he's getting on the board at least, which is something more than he was doing in previous weeks. So that was very good. It was good to see him getting going a little bit, and I think that confidence carried over into the Portland game. And obviously, Gabriel Peck had another amazing performance for sure. Uh, with that pass, like I just mentioned, that was a very good pass over the top. And then he basically had like a messy run, beating one player for pace, just completely outrunning him, then getting away from a sliding tackle to put in a perfect ball into the box for Payne. So, I mean, that run was absolutely incredible for sure. And you're really just seeing the production out of everybody right now. All the DPs playing very well, scoring, assisting. They won us the match, and that's what your difference makers do. They win you games. And yeah, they played very well. The offense was definitely very good for sure.
They had a night, right? I mean, and again, 3 goals in the first half. Like, I mean, they really went to set the tone for the game. Really wanted to get the win. Really wanted to get the bounce back. And yeah, I mean, obviously Fagundes, with that goal. I mean, that was a great goal. Just a great pass, great shot from Fagundes to really open it up early on in that game. And then obviously Peck just keeps doing what he needs to do, and that run that he gives to the assist to Paint still gets a goal. And you know what, like, maybe Paint still was like, it kind of looked like Paint still wasn't necessarily happy that it was a tap in, but definitely looked like he was a little relieved that he got a goal, that had looked, get some confidence back in there. And yeah, the little layoff to Ricky Puig. I mean, sometimes all you need is just a little layoff and a little pass just to really get things going. So Paint still definitely for sure had a bounce back game. Maybe wasn't the flashiest from Paint still, but still, though, he got production from you. You still get the goal and the assist, and it definitely carried over it into the Portland game, where he had a much better game, which we'll talk about obviously later. But yeah, I mean, obviously the offense looked like they were clicking. They were firing on all cylinders. What we want to see, what we need to see from this team, and like you said, they're the difference makers. They got to go make they got to go win you games like that. So definitely for sure a great night for the offense, great night overall. And obviously a great week overall. So and we'll talk about Portland for sure. But in terms of this game, still though, great offensively and a great night for them. Yeah. But anything else you want to say about the offense before we move on?
Even though Peck didn't score, I would say he was our best player on the night, probably. He was making everything happen offensively, and the 2 assists he had were honestly incredible.
Yeah, I mean, obviously 2 assists from Gabriel Peck, which is still, again, maybe doesn't get you the goals, but still contributes in some sort of way. So still a good night for Gabriel Peck. Did he make team of the match day for that one? I think he did, right? Or was it Okay,
He was on
so
the bench
okay.
maybe.
He might have been on the bench, but definitely for sure, still had a great performance regardless. Actually, somebody who did make the team of the match day was Greg Vanny, actually, as the head coach, which is very interesting that he got it for that week. So obviously, let's talk about, I guess, the subs and the adjustments for that game. How'd you feel about it? How'd you feel about Greg Vanny's management? Because obviously, it got him to the, team of the match day for that week. So, how'd you feel about, the management of this game?
I mean, look, man, I'll just say it like straight off the bat. There's two things I'm shocked with this week. Greg Vanny being team of the coach and Edwin Cerrillo being man of the match for the Portland game. Those are two things I just completely do not understand. But yeah, honestly, I really don't know because I feel like in the second half, the dude just completely wanted to stop attacking. We just parked the bus. We played pretty bad, honestly. It looked kind of ugly. It didn't look very good. And yeah, the goals we had in the first half were good, but like how many of those were like really good coaching? I think that was just more players producing individual moments that were really good. Like the Peck pass and then the Peck run for Paintsell's goal. Like I don't know how much of that you could say was like, oh, Greg Vanny and his system is working really well. Like I don't know, honestly. I don't see how he made it, but I guess good on him. He got the recognition, so I guess he can be happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely for sure was a little bit of a shock. I mean, again, like yeah, like we were great defensively in the second half. I guess parking the bus, but still, I guess those adjustments kind of helped, and I guess just the simple adjustment of putting Paint still at the number 9. But again, that doesn't really do much of saying like um, that he
Best
should
coach in
do.
the league.
Yeah, exactly. Or at least for that week, right? Or for that match day, right? So, unless every other coach just did not have a good match that week, but still, though, I guess give Greg Vanny some sort of his credit, his flowers, right? I mean, if the league saw that he did a good managing that game and a good way to go into that game, then I guess he deserves it, and I guess that should also boost a little bit of Greg Vanny's confidence, right? Because there's been moments where we say, he doesn't make the great decisions sometimes. He sometimes it's a mental hurdle that he faces sometimes, and then in this game he ends up getting team of the match day. So that's got to give Greg Vanny at least some sort of confidence and a boost, right? So it's again good for him, good for the I guess good for the team as well that he got the head coaching spot for the team of the match day. But yeah, those were the players. I don't know if you have any other thoughts about the players, any other thoughts about the game in general, or else we can just move on.
Gabriel Peck actually did make team of the match day in the starting lineup versus Colorado, so he wasn't on the bench.
Oh, okay. So see, there you go. So Gabriel Peck did make it for that game, and again, 2 assists on the game. Still was an impactful player for the Galaxy that night. But yeah, though. Any other thoughts you want to say about the game or the players? Anything else?
Definitely a really good bounce back win for sure after the poor FC Dallas game. I think, we thought we had a good chance of winning this game because we were at home and we were going to come out to play against a team that could have been close to us in the standings, but I'm glad we came out. We did the right things. We put in the effort. We played, pretty well for the most part, and we got out of there with a win.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Good bounce back game for the team and a good way to set the tone for the week, right? Because obviously we end up getting another win against the Portland Timbers, which we'll move into that game now. And like I mentioned, it was a 3-2 win as well. You got to see again, the offense was clicking here. You got to see production from all your DPs. And yeah, I mean, obviously going into this game, we even said that this was going to be a tough game. Portland was on fire. They were, seemingly tearing up the league. Heck, there was even people saying, like, making TikTok saying, like, hey, how the hell is this Galaxy team going to beat Portland? How the hell do they even stand a chance against this Portland team, right? So obviously there was people that were skeptical about the Galaxy going into this game, including us last week when we were talking about the previews, but we get the win. We get the 3 points in this game. Obviously, I think a little, like we mentioned, defensively probably wasn't that great either, but you still got to see a lot of production from the offense in this game. So let's talk about it. How'd you feel about this Portland game? What are your thoughts about it? And break it down for me.
Yeah, definitely very entertaining, but also very stressful for sure. I think this game, the scoreline kind of did reflect the game a lot more. Like I feel like in the Colorado game, like I said before, we were a little bit unlucky to have it be a 1-goal game because we played better than them and it could have been a multi-goal game. That Portland game, the scoreline kind of felt deserved. Like it felt like a very close game, very back and forth. And yeah, obviously kind of the same thing, right? Just in a different context. Like we play really good offensively. Our DP step up. They have an incredible night. Our midfield is kind of shaky again, just, a little bit too easy. And then defensively, like I feel like, against Colorado, we just got a little bit unlucky defensively to concede. Well, against Portland, I just feel like we were just outright poor defensively. I don't think we were very good. And yeah, it was kind of frustrating too because like we had a 2-0 lead and then we conceded immediately, which was kind of kind of frustrating for sure. And then we go up 3-1 and then we make it 3-2. It's like we can never, just maintain a 2 goal lead or even make it a 3 goal lead, which is something I definitely want to see. So yeah, very back and forth game. You also got to give Portland credit. They stay in the match and they have the players, that can get them back into matches. So they also did a good job, but very back and forth game, very stressful, very fun to watch. Definitely fun for my last game being at Dignity Health Sports Park for a long time, but yeah, very entertaining. Had a lot of fun. It was a very good win for sure against a very tough Portland team. I even said last week I didn't think we were going to beat them because of the way Evander, Mora, Rodriguez were playing. I thought we'd be more tired probably, and it was kind of strange too because we only had 3 days of rest and Portland didn't even play on Wednesday, so they had the whole week. And the fact that we, I guess, came out with a little bit more energy was kind of surprising. But yeah, good night overall. Very good night against a very good team. A very good week for sure. And yeah, definitely happy with it no matter how we got it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I agree with all points, right? Like, I think I mentioned like kind of before we started recording, or I might have mentioned it in the beginning of the episode. I said like both of these games were kind of similar in their own ways, right? Like, obviously, not just the scoreline being at 3-2, but still, though, I think what the performance in the games was still kind of similar. I do think defensively we weren't that great. Obviously, there was a bit of a defensive changes in there. You did get to see Nelson back on there, and Casares did start at center back. So there was some defensive changes in there, which we'll talk about the players to, obviously maybe that had an effect. But yeah, but still though, like offense had a great game. Midfield was still shaky, probably a lot more exposed than the Colorado game, because obviously when you look back at those two Portland goals, it was very easy for them to just get up the field and score those goals. I mean, honestly, like, and again, defensively wasn't good either. Like, I mean, those should have been at least some sort of prevention, right? Like it just seemed like they just walked into our side of the field and just scored. And yeah, I mean, obviously it wasn't great, but still though, the offense really kind of carried us in this game and, got the goals that we needed and, had the production that they needed. Of course, Joseph Paint still had a really good game in this game. So he was, man of the match team of the match day as well, with this performance, right? So, yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it was sort of similar, but I think defensively, we did have a little bit more struggles in this game, which again, I think this kind of made it more close. Definitely was the score definitely told you the story, with it being a close game. So, yeah, I mean, again, still not the prettiest game, still some flashy moments in this game as well, but you get the 3 points, you come out with the win, and you end off the week and going into the MLS All-Star break and Leagues Cup tournament, right? So definitely for sure a win you needed again against the Portland Timbers and a really good Portland Timbers team, a team that'll probably, be in the playoffs by the end of the season, right? Because of how good they've been and the players that they have, right? So definitely for sure a good win for the team and a win that they needed, ending off the week and going into the break. Yeah. Any other opinions or thoughts about the game that kind of stood out to you?
Yeah, it was a very back and forth game. It felt very tough. Both teams had a lot of quality on the field, so you knew moments were going to happen, and that's exactly what happened, right? It was very back and forth. I think both teams wanted a lot, but our DPs just stepped up a little bit more, and that was the difference this game.
Yeah, definitely for sure. So I guess we'll talk about the players, right, in this game, which again, there was a difference in some parts of the lineup. So we'll talk about that. Let's start off with the defense. And like I had mentioned, John McCarthy started at goal. You had Mickey Imane back at right back. You had John Nelson at left back again. And then you had Maya Yoshida and Martin Cáceres. So you had the two veteran players in this game. So, and like I mentioned, putting those two guys in maybe probably had a different effect on the defense. Did you feel that way? Did you think, putting those two guys kind of made the defense not as good as what they were in the Colorado game? And just in general, how'd you feel about the defense?
Honestly, like when it comes to the defense, like I really don't think they played bad. Like I don't see what more they could have done really. Like we'll talk about the midfield a lot probably. And just to give a little bit of a preview of that, I think our midfield was responsible for us conceding both of the goals, honestly. I think our midfield defensively was so much worse than our actual defense was defensively. Like, when I look at the defense, I mean, what could I really criticize, honestly? I think Yamane had a good game on the right. I think Nelson had another really strong performance on the left. I don't think either of the center backs were, like, too good, especially Cáceres. They looked a little bit shaky, but even then, like, I don't think they were too bad. Like, I think the center backs were all right. McCarthy did pretty well. I don't think he could prevent either goal. Maybe could do a little better on the second goal, but even then, like, he was kind of blocked, and it looked like it took a slight deflection possibly. So I don't know. Maybe even that's kind of hard to give on him. But Like honestly, like when it comes to like our actual back line, like defensively we were poor this game. Like when you look at just the entire team, we had a poor defensive game, but our actual back line, like I don't think they played that bad actually. I think it was a lot more on the midfield, which we'll talk about.
Well, I do agree with you with the midfield, right? Because I think that they are responsible for the defensive, right? For the defensive structure. But I think you could, like, defensively in our back line, maybe you could have done a little bit better in those two goals. Like, I think for the first goal with Cabecita, like, like, I don't
America
think,
guy.
yeah, an America guy. Hey, I'll take him as a Cruz Azul guy more than anything, just because, well, I mean, I guess he won both with both America and Cruz Azul. But still, though, Cabecita, a very good player. I think, Yamane necessarily wasn't too focused on Cabecita. In that goal, he was offsides, realized he was offsides, goes back into position, finds the space, and maybe you could have done better, just awareness wise for that goal, and then for the second goal. I mean, yes, I think maybe they could have stepped up into that goal, maybe try to prevent that way. But again, like you said, he took the shot. Maybe there was a bit of a deflection for that second goal, so maybe there was some things that they couldn't necessarily control with that goal. But I do think there was a little bit of the defense did have a little bit more of a poor game. Like I think they didn't look that as great, but still though, I mean, Yamane still had a good game. McCarthy still did the stops that he needed to do. And maybe, yeah, you're right. Like, I'm not trying to be too harsh on the defense, but still, though, like, I guess, like, the center back still played okay. John Nelson still had a decent game as well. So I guess it wasn't necessarily on them. Could they have done a little bit better in some aspects of the goals? Yes, I do think so. But still, though, I mean, like you said, we can talk about the midfield because I think that's more of the main part of why those goals were scored. But I think the defense still had a little bit of a poor game, but not completely. You know what I mean?
It was funny though because when Cabecita scored, I immediately thought of you, and I just thought to myself, like, of course the America guy scored against Eric's team. Like I just knew it was gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, still though, and Cabecita's been playing good. It's almost like
Really good.
yeah. I mean, honestly, like it's almost been a little quiet in a sense for Cabecita because I don't like MLS doesn't really post him as much. Like when they said that he had like 11 goals and scored 12 goals with that game. When they mentioned that he had like 11 goals and I think 9 assists, like I was kind of like, why haven't more people been talking about Cabecita? Like he's been playing very well for Portland right now, and so it's like it almost surprised me. But again, I respect Cabecita in a sense for the Cruz Azul days because obviously, fun fact, my mom is a Cruz Azul fan, so he was part of the championship winning team that that they got their first championship in like over like almost like 20 something years, almost 30 years probably. So I give Cabecita his respect for his Cruz Azul days, but maybe not so much in the America days. But still, though, he's a great player. I can't deny that he's not a great player. But you know what? Hey, he still got in the right moments in that game and got in the right spot and, gets a goal for the Portland Timbers that game. So again, he's still a great player. But yeah, but obviously I think the defense still maybe could have been a little bit better. That's just on me. But but any other thoughts you want to talk about the defense before we move on?
Not really. Like I understand your point where the defense could have done a little bit better. I also agree with you too. Like, yeah, could they have prevented that Cabecita goal? Maybe. Could someone have maybe stepped up for Cerrillo because he wasn't pressuring the ball for that second goal? Maybe. But at the same time, like I think a lot of our goals fell on the midfield this game.
Which, yeah, I mean, definitely for sure. Which again, I guess we could move on into the midfield, like we mentioned. So obviously, the midfield was the same as well. You had Cerrillo, you had Mark Delgado, and you had Ricky Puig. Again, this was a game where I think you saw the midfield be exposed, and again, you can you can kind of say because of the offense with Joseph Payne still being the 9 and the amount of offensive weapons you had for the team that day, it really didn't have a defensive structure for the midfield. But yeah, I mean, again, still, those goals were very easy for them to just go on our side of the field, and you have to blame give fault at to the midfield for that because again, there has to be some defensive structure. There has to be some sort of like again a little bit of defense in there. And I understand Ricky Puig may not be the guy who's always going to give you the defense or anything like that, but even then, he's had some defensive moments. It's just like the defense definitely lacks, or the midfield definitely lacks some defensive structure. For sure. But again, how'd you feel about this game and the midfield's performance, and what are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, honestly, our midfield was terrible, especially defensively. Cerrillo got man of the match from the LA Riot squad, which I just did not understand at all. Tell me if I'm missing something or I just like misread something, but I don't understand how he got it because, in my opinion, he was one of the worst Galaxy performers on the day. In my opinion, I mean, he was just really bad in general for both of those goals. Like on the first Portland goal, Evander just completely walked up the field into our own 18-yard box to eventually pass it off to Cabecita, and that was so easy. I was just asking, like, where is Surreal in that situation? Why is he not, like, getting on a player like Evander, who's also been like red hot over recent weeks, and a player I was worried about? Like, where was our midfield right there? And if a player is going up on the field in your attack, you're gonna have to look at the six, obviously, and that was really bad. And Surreal on the second goal. Like, that was really bad too. That was bad on him and Peck because they both had a chance to foul Moreno instead of just letting him get a clean shot off. Like, Peck has done so much right, and we'll talk about him too, but for that second goal, he had the opportunity to drag down Moreno, and he didn't do that at all. And Cerrillo had a chance to slide over, but he just watched him. Like, why did Cerrillo just watch Moreno shoot instead of trying to put a body in the way or take him down for a foul? Like, free kicks are very difficult, even if he gave that up. I just don't understand what Cerrillo was doing. And Delgado did not play very well either. Kind of like Cerrillo a little bit. I feel like he had a lot of turnovers. Players got through him too easily. They were just passing around him. I mean, like Delgado and Cerrillo are your two defensive guys in the midfield. If they're not, contributing defensively, it's going to be difficult because Ricky has so many responsibilities offensively. And I think offensively, he played a very good game too. But defensively, he doesn't really do as much because that's not what he's asked to do. So you have to rely on Delgado and Cerrillo to do it defensively. But that game, I mean, they just did not do that at all. And it just, made for easy attacks for Portland and just very easy. The defense was almost left out to dry because our midfield was not stopping people defensively. But at least it only resulted in 2 goals, and our offense had yet another massive night, but still our midfield was honestly just very bad besides for Ricky Puig offensively.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Ricky Puig still had a night. Let's, obviously we can talk about Ricky Puig just being great, but still, though, the midfield collectively as a whole was not there. And again, we talk about defensive structure. I talked about Zavaleta's, opinion that he had last year. It's like it's true. Like everything is true. It's like you need to have more defensive structure. And honestly, you're like, I'm pretty sure we're like, I don't know if you agree with this, but we can say we need Brugman back in this game, right? Like we need somebody like Brugman to really have that structure, or, maybe even put Fagundes in there at some points to have a little bit more structure within that midfield, and we seemingly don't have it right now. And I think again, Edwin is a young player. I understand he has a lot of potential. He's still I still think he's a good option, a good backup option, and things like that. But at the same time, right now, recently, it just hasn't been there for him completely. And I think for even in this game, like you mentioned, like he could have possibly stopped those goals, and I think he possibly could have had some sort of a way to prevent those goals, right? So, and again, like for him getting the man of the match is, again, I mean, Riot Squad has kind of a weird way of grading players at times, and again, this is not talking me shit to Riot Squad or anything. Obviously, I give them a lot of respect for as a support group, and obviously a lot of Riot Squad people, listen to the podcast as well. So again, this is not me talking shit on you guys. Like obviously, I respect you guys, but still, though, it's like definitely him getting the man of the match was kind of a little bit of a surprise when you had Joseph Paints, though, who had a goal and 2 assists and looked like his march through April self, right? So, but definitely for sure, I mean, the midfield did have a role into those goals, and again, there was just we were exposing those right in those places. We had Portland just seemingly just went into our side of the field easily and got those 2 goals, made it close, and again, still though, we just got to be better on those. The midfield just has to be better defensively for sure. And, but again, when we have basically a lot of offensive weapons on the field that night, it's going to be a struggle for the midfield to have some sort of defensive structure in that game.
Yeah, just too many turnovers as well, honestly. I feel like they turned over the ball a lot and it created a lot of dangerous opportunities possibly for Portland. They didn't connect on all of them, but still, like, you give these opportunities to teams that have a lot of quality on the field, it can come back to hurt you. So I just think in general, like, yes, we definitely need Brugman back. I think, him, Delgado, and Puig have really good chemistry when they play together. We've seen that before, so we definitely need to get him back at some point. But even when he's not available right now, like, I just still think we need to, step it up, especially defensively. We could have done a lot more.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Which also Brugman update, he did get his green card, and he is back in the States, and I think also training with the team now, or at least prepping with the team now. So that's a good sign. Maybe after this All-Star break, maybe who knows, he gets some minutes in Leagues Cup. But obviously, we'll talk about that once we get into the preview. But still, though, yeah, definitely we need someone like a Brugman, and just in general, just some sort of defensive structure within the midfield, because again, we can't keep turning over the balls. We can't be exposed with the midfield. And I feel like the Galaxy's, one of their best bright spots in a sense when healthy is the midfield, right? Once Brugman and Delgado and Ricky Puig have that connection, it's one of the, it's a really good midfield. Probably, maybe you can argue one of the best midfields in the league, right? So I definitely think that, once the midfield is healthy, once Brugman is healthy and everybody's in place, we'll be a lot better. But definitely for sure the midfield, but did not have the greatest game. But Ricky Puig had a really good game, definitely for sure. But let's talk about the offense now. Like we mentioned, the offense had a great night. You had Joseph Paintsil at the 9th position again. You had Fagundes on the left, and you had Gabriel Peck on the right. Again, a lot of production from the offense once again. How'd you feel about it, and what are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, I think Fagundes was solid again. I think he had another really good night. Just playing it simple, that's what I like about Fagundes. He does everything simple, just does it for the team, gets everybody involved, gets everybody their touches, just creates that sort of structure for the Galaxy that's really good. So I think Fagundes had a very, you would say, quiet night because he didn't really score or assist or make these great passes, but a very effective night for sure. I think Peck had another good night too. He looked very dangerous taking on the Portland left back. He was very good. I will just say though, on the second goal, I don't know why Peck didn't foul Santiago Moreno. He just let him go by, then Cirillo just let him go by. Both of them had the chance to take a yellow card and probably prevent that goal up 3-1. I think he should have done it. So I would just say, why would he not foul there? But it's a mistake. Other than that, I think he had a really good night. And yeah, Joseph Paintsil, very, very good, honestly. Very happy to see it. Definitely something we all needed to see, something he needed for himself. And this game was actually a really good game. That Colorado game, he played pretty well, but this game, especially for that third goal, that was a vintage Joseph Paintsil goal that you would see in March and April, where he got the ball out wide, cut through 2 defenders and got a shot off, and it hit almost the top corner. It was a very, very good strike, very good move, a very clutch goal to put us up 3-1 in a game where Portland had the momentum. He massively stepped up for us. He had that run, which I'll ask you, do you think that was offside? Because a lot of people thought it was offside, and I just can't tell, honestly. It was so close. It was an amazing pass from Ricky, but he might have been offside, but still played the ball to Peck, and he had a goal. So that was a very good goal for him, a very good team goal. Then, yeah, obviously had another assist to Ricky Puig where he hit it from distance, so that was really good too. So great night for Joseph Paintsil, but do you think he was offside on that first run? I just really can't tell.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think he was offsides. I think
Really?
he was at least a good, maybe possibly a leg offsides. I really think it would have. I'm surprised it didn't get reviewed or overturned. I really am surprised that they did not go into the, into the booth for that. I'm honestly surprised that didn't happen. But you know what? Hey, I always say VAR stinks, but I guess it went into our favor for this game, right? So I guess you can't complain too much. But still, though, got to be better on on those reviews. But so I think he was offsides, but still though, if you take off the offsides, still was a good pass from Ricky, still was a good, center to Peck and him getting his goal. And yeah, obviously still though, Joseph Paintsil just had a great game. And like you said, in that third goal, looked like vintage Paintsil, almost looked like the San Jose goal that he scored a little bit, kind of reminds you about that. So yeah, Paintsil had a amazing night, honestly, and I hope this, this is a kind of a sign of him getting back and him getting his confidence back and really just start playing like the Paintsil that we saw early on in the season. So hopefully that is the case. But still, he had a great night. Peck still had a goal and still had a good night. Fagundes, like you mentioned, does everything simple, everything right, and that's something that you need from a player at times. Is just do the simple things right, and and again, that's what makes Fagundes such a good asset for the team. So yeah, obviously offensively, we played well. We still got the assists, we got the production, we got the goals. And obviously just like the Colorado game, I don't really think you can say much other than it was a good game for them. And really, again, they were the reason why we won. They were the reason why we got the 3 points at the end of the day. And the difference makers got you the win. So that is the story for this game, at least, for both sides. They definitely stepped up in this game for sure.
That third goal was so important, though, when it was 2-1 to go up 3-1 from Joseph Paintsil. That goal was honestly incredible. He had it out wide, went through 2 defenders, and then placed a perfect shot. That's the Paintsil we want to see. That's the aggressive version of himself at his best, that, he makes the Galaxy so much better when he scores goals like that. And that was a very, good welcoming sight to see when he did that.
Yeah, definitely for sure. In fact, funny thing enough, like when that pass happened to Paint Still, my brother like immediately was like, "Oh, this is gonna be a golazo." And then once he shot it, he was like, "See, I knew that was gonna happen." Like my brother kind of like called that when we were watching the game. But no, definitely for sure. Like Paint Still, definitely. I mean, what a great goal! What a great goal from him, and hopefully. That builds his confidence. He definitely looked a lot more happier in this game compared to the Colorado game because obviously Colorado game, like he felt, I don't know. To me, in the Colorado game, it didn't look like he was that like happy. Obviously, I'm pretty sure he was glad that he got the goal and the assist. But this one was definitely for sure like kind of like him saying like, yeah, like I got it back, or like this is definitely the game that I needed. And well deserved. Again, he got team of the match day for that game, so well deserved for Joseph Paint. So hopefully this is the turn of that he starts producing for the team. And also just another thing from Joseph Paintstill, because like we mentioned last week, you were kind of like, oh, when had Joseph Paintstill had like a good game, like a really good game against like a really good team? Because obviously we've seen him dominate against San Jose, and this week he had good production against two really good teams. So definitely for sure a good turn for Paintstill and a good bright moments for his season. Also, I mean, 10 contributions this whole week, or 10 goal contributions from the DPs this whole week. He had half of them. He had 5. So Joseph Paintstill, what a week, man. Have a week, and he earned it. He deserved it.
Yeah, the 10 goal contributions in 2 games is just the Will Kuntz effect, right? That's what he does. That's the caliber he works at, and you're seeing the results right now.
Yeah, definitely for sure. So he did yeah, seems like the triple P's or the killer P's are connecting again, right? And that's what you want to see. And so hopefully that again that ends up building up into Leagues Cup as well as for the rest of the season. So hopefully that this is a bit of a turn. But anyways, any other things you want to say about the offense before we move on?
Yeah, definitely a very good night overall. Very fun to watch, very inspiring, and yeah, very happy about how they played again.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Management, how'd you feel about the subs? Greg Vanny, I guess, from this game before we move on into into other stuff.
I mean, just right now, like we don't have a lot of options off the bench, right? Like Portland made 5 subs, we made 2 subs, right? That kind of tells you where we're at right now, and we're winning games because our DPS are just so good. They're winning you matches, but right now we really don't have a lot of options off the bench. Like, what did you really put in there? You put in Miguel Berry, and how much do we really like him? And you put in Garces for like a solid like what was it 5 or 6 minutes probably plus stoppage time, so about like 10 minutes. And that's a guy like it seems like you don't really have full confidence in right now to play for you. So we just don't have a lot of options off the bench right now. Some of that I think is injuries. We do have some guys out, and some of our depth is starting right now. But also like the summer window's open right now. Like we could make moves to try to strengthen our bench a little bit, get a few more options in. But we could definitely talk about that. But I feel like Greg Vanny just off the bench didn't really have too much to work with in the first place.
Yeah, I agree with that. I will say I do like the fact that he basically kept his players, his difference makers for most of the game, right? So I think you got to give him some little respect for that, and like didn't really take anybody off because of the fact that those were your best players out there. You have to keep them on, right? So I will say I will give him his say that was a good on him. But yeah, obviously we don't have too many options right now. But obviously we'll talk about right now some of the options, right, or one of the options that is most likely coming. But yeah, obviously, in terms of this game though, still a great win. You still got 3 goals. You still got the 3 points. And again, you close out the week 6 out of 6 points, and it's a good thing to have that for the break for sure. But yeah, any other opinions or thoughts you want to say about this game or just in general the week that we had?
Yeah, I mean, I was not expecting a full 6 point week. Even you agreed with me. Like, you did not think we were going to get 2 wins. You thought maybe like a win, a draw, or maybe a draw and a loss. But 6 points was something that I did not think was going to happen. So I'm very pleasantly surprised that the team showed up and got those full 6 points.
Yeah, definitely exceeded our expectations for going into this week, and they got the 6 points. So yeah, definitely happy about that. Also before we move on, we did get to see the new third kit in action for the Colorado game, something I forgot to mention, but obviously that kit looks amazing on the field. I don't know how you feel about that kit in general, but what are your little thoughts about that kit?
It's great. It looks amazing. Looks very good. I was very happy with it. It's great, yeah.
Yeah, it looks amazing. I mean, obviously it's a really good I guess you can say tribute to the original, right? Like it's a really good modern version of the original jersey from '96, and yeah, they knocked it out of the park with that one. Numbers look great, the names look great on it, just everything looks great for that jersey.
That's
but
perfect.
Yeah, definitely for sure a really good jersey. But anyways, let's move on because that was our recaps of both games. Great week for the team, and now we go into the All Star break. Which, by the way, I think we mentioned it before, but Ricky Puig did make the All Star game. For this year again, and also Gabriel Peck made the All Star team this year. In fact, he was a last minute addition from Wilfred Nancy. Obviously, you did have some injuries for the MLS All Star team, like Messi is not available. I forget who the other player was that wasn't available for the MLS team. I can't think about it on the top of my head, but regardless,
Aranga?
Yeah, Chicho Arango. Obviously, he's suspended right now. So, yeah, definitely for sure. Gabriel Peck makes the All Star team because of those players not being available for this week. But yeah, I mean, obviously, how do you feel about our two Gs representing representing the team for the All Star game? Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely deserved. Totally deserved. I'm very happy about it. Obviously, Ricky Puig is obviously going to make it because he's a popular figure in this league and he's a name that everyone recognizes. So he's just going to get in the team pretty much no matter what. But Gabriel Peck was one that probably wasn't going to get into the team because he's a first-year player. Obviously, he was playing very well, but doesn't really have the name in MLS right now because it is his first year. There's some players that are more established than him, but over the last handful of months, Gabriel Peck has played so well to the point where it's how could he not be on the All-Star team? He's played at an All-Star level, a very high level with those guys that are with the team too. So definitely very happy to see him make it, even if it's a replacement player. It's still good that the coach picked him, Wilfred Nancy. He still valued him and wanted to bring him into the team, so that was really cool to see. Definitely very deserved too with the way he's played. Like I always say, the All-Star Game's which it is, a popularity contest. Like the fans vote in their names they recognize and the media picks names that are recognizable to make the game get more viewers. But I also think with the All-Star Game, it's also important to include guys that are also playing at a super high level. So to get their name on a league stage. And I think it's just really cool recognition. I know some Galaxy fans are saying they don't want our players going to the All-Star Game because they'll get injured, which I just don't agree. Nobody really tries in the All-Star Game, and plus players play for 20 minutes before they come off. So, I highly, highly doubt anybody will get injured from that game. I think if anything, the injuries would have happened in this congested period before Leagues Cup. That's when all the injuries happen. I just feel they'll be fine. It would be cool to see them represent. It's always very fun. Gabriel Peck definitely deserved to make it with the way he's been playing, and I'm happy to see he got on the team.
Yeah, I mean, definitely for sure. It's good representation for the team. It's good. It's good. It's an accolade for the player, right? Obviously, I understand that, I guess other leagues don't have all-star games and things like that. It's a very American thing, right? But still though, it's an accolade for the player, for the league to be an all-star. I mean, that is still a very important thing to say. Hey, I was one of the, I represented one of the best players in the league, right? So I think that is a good recognition. And even if it is a popularity contest, that just shows how great of a player you are, not only within your fan base, but within the whole league, right? So it's I think that is still a good thing to have. And, especially for Wilfred Nancy to be the guy who selected him. I think that's even more important to say, hey, the coach selected you to be on the team, not just the fans. The coach wanted you there, right? So still though, I think it's a recognition. I think it's good for the team. I understand people say oh yeah, you don't want your players to get injured and things like that. It's a meaningless game. I understand that, but at the end of the day, we can't just be oh yeah, be mad that they're at the All-Star game. You got to be happy for the guys that they're going to go out and represent the team. And I think that's what you want to see. You want to see guys representing the team well. So definitely for sure, Gabriel Peck earned it. Whether he was voted in or not, he definitely earned being in that team. So hopefully the All-Star game is a spectacular this year against Liga MX. Hopefully those guys become difference makers for the game this week. Also, Ricky Puig in the All-Star Skills Challenge, so that's another thing to look out for. He made it for that, and yeah, obviously good for those guys. Good recognition, for sure. But anyways, that is a little bit of the All-Star game. Let's talk a little bit about Galaxy news. There is a Marco Reus update. Basically, it's almost a done deal. They're just getting the contract finalized. Will Kuntz even said it himself, trying to get the final details for the contract. So it's basically, we've known it for at least a good couple months now that he was going to come in here and that it's going to happen. So obviously now we get some updates from Fabrizio Romano. We get updates from Tom Bogert and of course from Will Kuntz himself, over the weekend. So yeah, obviously Marco Reus is going to come in. Obviously we've talked about him before, but I guess, how do you feel about it now that it's almost a done deal? How do you feel about Marco Reus?
One more point back to the All-Star Game, though. Funny enough how you mentioned that the All-Star Game is an Americanized event, which it is for sure. But like you could really tell it's that Americanized event because when they announced that Gabriel Peck got named an All Star, his reaction, he had no idea what the fuck was going on. It was honestly hilarious. Like he had no clue what it meant to be an All Star, so you could tell it is an American thing. He didn't really know what that was. It was pretty funny to see.
Yeah, when they had their pitch on they had the season ticket member event, and yeah, he definitely was confused on what they just announced. So yeah, it's definitely an American thing for sure with the All Star game. But still, though, hopefully he's proud of it. Hopefully he sees the significance in being an All Star. But yeah, obviously that was pretty funny to see as well. But again, though, Marco Royce, we got an update on him with seemingly everybody, including Will Kuntz. So I mean, again, what are I guess your final thoughts that he's basically the deal's almost done? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm definitely happy to have him here. I think he's going to be a great addition to the locker room and can still provide a lot on the field. One thing that's definitely interesting though is that like will we have to move on from a player to bring him in because I feel like it got a little bit difficult. Like some people were saying we might have to move somebody, some people are saying we can make it work without moving anybody. So that's going to be interesting to see, but I still think if you had the chance to make that addition at, a non-DP cost, you definitely do it, but definitely interesting to see the details of the contract, how it plays out if somebody has to get moved, but yeah, like you said, we've known it for weeks, if not months now, that like it's a strong possibility he'll come here, and it looks like it's getting pretty close now.
Yeah, definitely for sure. I think the moving a player like idea is very interesting. Oh, excuse me. I think that Jesus Christ, let me start that again. I think people saying that we might have to move a player is very interesting because obviously when that news came out, Tom Boger actually went on CBS Sports Golazo Network, so he was on there to talk about that. And he said something interesting. Obviously, he said like that that he feels like the Galaxy isn't necessarily going to move people, but if you're a GM from another team, they should definitely be calling for Diego Fagundes, because obviously Diego Fagundes has been playing well. Now, obviously, like we've kind of joked around, and obviously, like you've mentioned before, a couple months ago, you said we should trade Fagundes, we should get him out of here because he wasn't necessarily the right fit. Obviously, that is definitely changed. He's definitely been the better player. For the team, I guess. Just in general, I think he's always been a good player for the team. But still, though, obviously, people are saying that, or Tom Boger at least is saying that could be a possibility that teams could be calling up for Diego Fagundes. I mean, obviously, do you think that's I guess from what you said last time about that opinion, do you think that still could be a possibility, I guess? Or do you, like, how do you feel about that if that's an option?
It might have to be an option possibly, but I don't want it to be an option. Like I just like the idea of having Fagundes on the team because he's a guy that will play for the team, not himself. Like you have a lot of guys in the Galaxy. I'm not saying they're selfish players, but they're guys that also want to get themselves going. Like Peck wants his numbers, Painsa wants his numbers, Joveljic wants his goals, Puig wants his touches, Brugman wants his touches, even Delgado to a certain extent wants his touches. Marco Royce, when he comes here, he's going to want to contribute offensively and, provide a lot for us. Like, I just think having a guy like Diego Fagundes where, like, yes, you're paying him a lot of money, obviously. Like, if you got his contract off the books, that frees up a lot of cap space because he's on a max TAM deal. But also having a guy that just, like, understands the league well, is a veteran in this team, is experienced, has, played a lot in MLS, has, creates a good structure for the team defensively, offensively. I feel like Diego Fagundes also makes everybody around him better. Like he's a very smart player. He understands what to do well. He fits Vanny's system very well. And we've seen like even with his record, I mean, he doesn't lose very often here. And I think it's not all because of him, but certainly you got to give him his credit for what he provides to the team and how that makes everybody around him better. So, I mean, yeah, like I said earlier, I was wrong about Diego Fagundes. Like before, he wasn't really starting at all for us. He was always coming off the bench. And I feel like off the bench, we weren't really getting that production in terms of numbers out of him. So I really never got to see like, his true impact, to be fair. I never really got to see what he could provide, but, now that Painso got injured for a while and, Joveljic is out for a while and you had midfield changes all the time too with Delgado being injured, you got to see basically Fagundes pretty much play every single game for the last 2 or 3 months. And yeah, he's been very good. I mean, he's been just great for the Galaxy, great player overall to have and somebody you definitely want to keep. So I'll admit I was wrong. I'm not always right, just like you're not always right. So I was wrong about him, but yeah, I mean, it would suck to lose him, but, if a team calls and, like, it makes it easier for you to complete that deal, you might have to do it because he's your most movable contract. Unless you want to move off Brugman, but I don't know. I don't think you would do that this season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, 100%. I'm not always right. In fact, I'm probably mostly wrong, so you're not wrong about that for sure. But obviously in Fagundes, I think it's interesting, though, because I don't think they're going to move on from him. I think he's too much of a valuable asset to move on from him. But because he is a valuable asset, I don't think it's that far off to say that you can get something good out of Diego Fagundes from trading him. And if there's one thing I known from Will Kuntz is that he's willing to do business, and I think you've seen that throughout his tenure here. Since last year, he's willing to do business. So, I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't think it's out of the realm to say that you can get something good out of Diego Fagundes, if that makes sense, right? So, again, I don't think it's going to happen. Hopefully, it doesn't come to that case, but definitely for sure an interesting thing to say that GMs could call up for Diego Fagundes, because I think a lot of teams would like a Diego Fagundes on their squad. So, definitely for sure it would be an interesting opinion or idea if that ever happens, but hopefully, and I don't think that'll happen, that he will get traded. But still, though, an interesting topic nonetheless. But yeah, I mean, Marco Reus seemingly is coming to the Galaxy. Obviously, we're just waiting till it's officially announced by the team, and all that good stuff. Who knows when that'll happen? But still, though, yeah, very interesting that he's gonna, the deal is almost done for Marco Reus. But yeah, that was a Marco Reus update for sure. I don't think there's any other player updates. I know I mentioned, Brugman getting his green card earlier, and, him being back with the team and training. So that's a good sign for the team as well. I don't know if we got any Joveljic updates or Aude updates. I know that they said that possibly Leagues Cup, maybe they'll be back, or at least Aude for sure. But I don't know if we got any other updates. If I remember, I don't know if you can think any off the top of your head.
No, I don't think so. But if you want, we could talk about a little bit about the summer league and what we would maybe like to see, or if there was something we would like to see happen.
Okay, for sure. I mean, obviously the summer window is open, like you mentioned, and obviously there is some needs. Obviously we've talked about striker before, saying like we do need a backup striker at some, because of Joveljic's availability this season. So, and obviously things like that. Obviously maybe we can make some defensive signings. Midfield depth could definitely be used for sure, which obviously Marco Reus is part of that midfield. So I don't know. Do you think there's anything interesting or anything that the Galaxy should be tackling right now, or at least trying to find something right now?
Yeah, definitely. I think when you see that U22 DP spot open right now, I think you have to go all in for it. Honestly, I think you really have to capitalize on that and use it right now, and spend good money on a player, right? Either from South America or from Europe or from wherever, honestly, where you think the best fit is. I just think there's the most talent there. So that'd probably be the best bet for you. And obviously those markets have worked out well for us before. But yeah, definitely the U22 DP spot, because like you said, Joveljic has been good this year, but he's also been very unavailable. Miguel Berry just isn't good enough to be a backup striker, first guy off the bench. And yes, Paintslet, false nine, it can work sometimes, but that's not really like a full-time answer, I don't think. So I think maybe spending like $6 or $7 million on a striker, maybe $5 million, however much you want, to bring in someone high quality in who can come in, develop really well, have this, last part of the season here, then come in next year and play this huge role for us. I think that would be great, honestly. When you combine Marco Reus with a U22 DP striker, possibly, I think that'd be a very good summer window. Maybe you could try to fill out the edges too, with some depth too. I mean, trades in MLS are always going through. Teams are always willing to move on from players. Like FC Dallas, for example, they're always moving players because they always have players coming up. So maybe, I don't know, you can find somebody interesting on the market for a good price, like 300K, 200K. There's deals out there for sure. Like we got Cerrillo and Fagundes for a combined 600K last year in making league trades. So anything's possible, really. So, I mean, I would say the two big moves have to be Marco Reus using the U22 DP spot. Those are the two big ones. And then on the edges, maybe just a little bit of depth around the team. Possibly, maybe in midfield, I'd like to see another midfielder come in probably. Because, like, who is really Delgado's backup? And Cerrillo, not even Cerrillo. It's like Brugman's been unavailable a lot of the year. So who's really Cerrillo's backup right now? So I just think around the edges we could use some moves. But yeah, definitely those two things should be the top priorities and would be considered big moves for sure.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Also, another thing, because you mentioned U22, that there was some salary cap changes throughout the week as well. I think it was that now teams could have 3 DPs and 3 U22s, or you can have 2 DPs and 4 U22s with, I think, $2 million in general allocation money. So now there's different options, I guess, for the for the salary cap and things like that. But for us in our instance, yes, I mean we have a U22 spot available. So I'm assuming we are going to use some or try to find something for that spot, whether it's a backup striker or whether it's another position. But definitely for sure, you got to look at the striker position still, because again, Payne still was a good solution for the week, but I don't know if that's necessarily the solution or the answer for the rest of the season. But But still, though, you got to look at that. I think midfield, like you mentioned, there could still be some depth that we could have in the midfield, especially because, like you mentioned, Brookman's not available. So who's like Cerrillo's backup? Obviously, we lost Daniel Aguirre, so obviously there's a spot there that you can add in there. So it's like, yeah, I think there's little things that we can fix up within the team, but definitely for sure, the big ones is going to be Marco Royce and possibly U22 striker. So obviously we'll see who that might be. Obviously we still need to see some rumors and names out there, but definitely interesting that the Galaxy they're in an interesting spot for sure into making moves in the summer window, but obviously we'll see what those moves are.
I would just say with the U22 DP spot, like we should be ambitious with that and go after kind of a big signing and spend a lot of money on it. Like we should bring in a guy that's actually like really good and we're really excited about. That's what I want to see. Kind of like what we did with Jovic, like spend around that like 4 million, 5 million, heck, maybe even go up if you really believe in a guy, go up to like 6 or 7 million on like a really young, exciting prospect who wants to come to MLS and be a part of this team. Like I just think with that spot, we should try to be very ambitious with it for sure.
Yeah, definitely for sure. We got to see what our options are, and of course, Will Kuntz definitely has his options. And like I mentioned before, he's a man who's willing to make some deals, willing to make some business. So who knows what trades we might make also, within the league. So definitely for sure, Will Kuntz has some interesting choices to make, and definitely, could make this team better, and definitely could help get some players that could definitely help the team. But yeah, I mean, obviously, we'll see what those signings are, but definitely going to be an interesting summer transfer window for sure. But anyways, I don't know if you have any other thoughts about, I guess, anything from the Galaxy news before we move on. No. Okay then. So let's talk about, I guess, Ventura County. Obviously, there's a Ventura County update. They played also, I believe, the Portland Timbers too, if I'm not mistaken. I did not see the score. How did they do in that game? What was the score line for that one?
Yep, yet another penalty shootout. You want to guess how they did?
I'm assuming they won that shootout.
Nope. First loss of the season in a shootout. 7-1
Oh,
now in shootouts, unfortunately. So that's
what?
unfortunate. But at least they got a point at home. It's something. Again, they're just missing so many players right now. Like even Ruben Ramos Jr. is with the Olympic USA team right now. So they just have like not a lot of bodies. The scoreline ended 0-0. So that was, at least they kept a clean sheet. They got 1 point. Because obviously if you go to a shootout, you play for 2 points. But at least they got the one, kind of like hockey style. But I mean, I don't know, man. They just need to have some bodies back, quite honestly. Johnny Perez played like 15 minutes for them, so that was cool. But yeah, a little bit unfortunate to get the first shootout loss, but at least they got a result in the game.
Oh well, I mean, I guess at least they got something out of it, right? So I guess it's not too bad. But yeah, I guess unfortunate they lost their first shootout. But hey, you know what? I guess there's a first for everything, right? I mean, they're still pretty good at shootouts, even if they lost this one. So obviously, yeah, I mean, Ventura County's just really been, I guess, grinding it, right? Like they're just really trying to grind out these games and trying to stay afloat as much as they can for the season, especially with how many players are missing for them. So definitely for sure. Ventura County definitely has got to grind it out for a bit, definitely for sure. But still, though, they got a point, so that's not bad, for them. So, yeah, that's a Ventura County update, and let's go into the preview for our first Leagues Cup game. Now, obviously, we'll talk about San Jose right now, but obviously, when we talk about Leagues Cup, it's or at least this format of Leagues Cup is new. Last year, we played it the first time. We don't even make it out the opening stages of the Leagues Cup. I know last year when we talked about it, we said, like, how does the team take the Leagues Cup? Do they take it as a valuable trophy? Do they take it as just, maybe they shouldn't really focus it on it too much? The team is a lot different than it was last year. They're much better. But yeah, I mean, obviously, Leagues Cup, it is interesting. Obviously, I think, some people have the idea that it's still a trophy. You still got to go fight for trophies. And maybe winning Leagues Cup could help the team. I don't know. I mean, obviously, there is still something to fight for. There is a Champions Cup spot in there. So you got to, that is still something important to play for. I will say this for Leagues Cup. I think if you have a shot of winning it, if the Galaxy feel like they have a shot at winning it, go for it. Obviously, if they have the shot for winning it, go for it. Then I think I would be okay for it. But I think if depending on the group stages, like obviously, hopefully we make it out the group, because obviously last year, like you mentioned, we had to wait for 3 weeks till they play, and that's not good. That's not good for the team. It's not good for us as, I guess, content creators, because we don't have anything to post. But still though, it's just like if they have a chance to go win it, I think they should go for it for sure. but still though, like obviously it's obviously we'll see how far this team goes. Like you mentioned, we're gonna have to play on the road. We have to play San Jose up there. We're gonna play Chivas at home. So it's like there's not that many home games that the Galaxy are gonna have, in Leagues Cup. But definitely for sure, it is interesting to see how they go. There could be some rotation within the squad for going into Leagues Cup. Maybe not use everybody. For this tournament, keep guys healthy. So obviously, it'll be interesting to see how they go how they take about for this tournament for sure. But let's talk about our first game, which is against the San Jose Earthquakes, like I mentioned, at San Jose at PayPal Park. Obviously we swept San Jose. In the MLS regular season, we've seemingly have had our ways with San Jose, and now we play them for the fourth time this year. How do you feel about going up against San Jose? Like, I mean, what are your thoughts about this one? Obviously, I guess, my thoughts about it, but how do you feel about going up against San Jose, again for the fourth time?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of Cali Classicos this year for sure. It'd be great to win the fourth one. Obviously, I feel like we should win it. Like, honestly, San Jose is the worst team in MLS this year. They've been pretty bad. And quite honestly, right now, I feel like San Jose just kind of quit on the season. It looks like they've kind of quit. I think they will show up for this game because, like, it is a Leagues Cup game. They could get out of the group, maybe, and try to do something. So this is probably the last time San Jose is really going to try this season to do anything. But just still, when you look at them, they're not a very good team. They're not playing very well. I feel like we have more talent than them. We have, players that can create more moments than them. We probably should win that game, give ourselves a little bit of a cushion going into the Chivas game. That's the game we probably should win too, because the atmosphere will probably be a little bit less than the Chivas game will be too. I feel like it's probably an easier environment to play in. So I feel like we should go up there, take care of business, and probably win that game and give ourselves a good start.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, obviously, like I've always mentioned, rivalry games could, go any way that they can. But I mean, the way that we've just been playing against San Jose, I think it should be a win. I think anything. I mean, I don't want to toot our own horn, but at the same time, I feel like anything less than a win could be a bit disappointing. Um, but still, though, it's just. But again, obviously, it's a rivalry game. San Jose, the second time we played them this season, almost had us. They kept it close, so it's not like it's not like it's going to be an easy win. It's not like it's going to be a team that we can just take lightly. Still, no matter how they are in the standings, because they could still try and play for something, especially for the Leagues Cup, I guess. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it should be a win. And honestly, like, I mean, I don't know. Again, I just don't want to make it seem like it's sealed, signed, and delivered. But still, though, it's like it's just like the way San Jose they are right now. Their culture right now, their ownership, everything that's just going on for them is just not good for them. Like, and again, we talk about last year with the struggles that we had with the Klein out situation and the boycott and things like that. For San Jose, it's like it's almost kind of similar. It's like they have an owner who's just not willing to spend, an owner that just doesn't seemingly care. I mean, obviously that owner is the same owner of the Oakland Athletics, and look where they're at right now. They're relocating. So it's just like, the owner's just not in the right spot either. And then the team in general, yes, they have some good pieces like Espinoza, like Inabobise, like the DP that they got, over the, with the last transfer window. It's like they have good players, but seemingly the culture for them is just not there at all. So it's like right now they're a dysfunctional group, and that's why the Galaxy should win. But then again, like I mentioned, they can still possibly compete for a win. So I guess you shouldn't really take them lightly at all, in a sense.
I would just say if we didn't get out of this group, that would be so disappointing because I think even last year, like, first of all, our team was so much worse last year than it is this year. And our group was stronger last year than it was this year. I think Leon, after winning the Champions League like a month ago, is significantly stronger than this current version of Chivas is. And obviously Vancouver is a much better team last year than this current version of San Jose is. And like I said earlier, the Galaxy are a much better team than they were last year. So if we don't get out of this group that's weaker than I was last year, I just feel like that would be so disappointing to sit at home for 3 weeks and not make it out. But yeah, you got to take care of business in San Jose. Obviously, they're not a very good team. They're having a lot of problems right now. They're almost dysfunctional, but I think if we go in there, we have the right mindset. I think we could get 3 points that would put us ahead in the group early on.
Yeah, definitely for sure. And obviously we've seen players like Joseph Paint still just seemingly dominate against San Jose. So who knows? Maybe this another dominant performance could help him going into the rest of the season, right? So who knows? But yeah, obviously we shouldn't take them lightly regardless. Again, it's still a rivalry game. You still got to take those important no matter how dysfunctional they are right now. But definitely for sure, something that, that is our first Leagues Cup game, and definitely something that we should keep an eye on. And also with the way the Leagues Cup group stages is, winning your first game could basically just mean that you're already into the next round. So if you take care of San Jose, you're basically kind of like, well, I guess depending on how they do against Chivas also, takes into account. But still, though, like if they manage to, beat San Jose, it'll basically be like they can still, basically go in automatically. So who knows? We'll have to see how they do against Guadalajara. But yeah. Any other points or thoughts you want to take about San Jose before we close it out?
Well, this isn't about San Jose. This is about the Leagues Cup. But I do agree with your point earlier where you said, like, if we have a realistic chance of winning the Leagues Cup, or not even winning the Leagues Cup, like getting a Champions League spot, like keep in mind, we're a team that hasn't really clinched CCL in almost like a decade now. So if you have an actual real opportunity to do that and the matchups are lining up for you to a path where that can be a real possibility, absolutely go all in and try to do that, because that would be a great deal for this team, a great accomplishment. And we're getting games in and we're not sitting at home. But also I kind of think at the same time, like since we had such a bad season last year, we're going to be on the road for pretty much every single game of Leagues Cup. And I just think after a while, if you do, trip after trip after trip after trip to state after state after state out of state, it's just going to get very tiring after a while. And then like that might affect how you play in the regular season. Because if you play all these games, you might be a little bit fatigued coming into the last 8 games, which maybe they can just have a bad 2 or 3 games and eventually pick it up to the last 5 or 4, but also like you want to put yourself in the best possible position going into the playoffs no matter what. So I think you do have to be cautious about Leagues Cup, but I do agree if you have a chance to win it or, clinch a Champions League spot, like depending on the matchup, you should go all in for it. I do agree on that part. I just think like going on the road a lot might take a lot out of us and a lot of energy, which you don't want to waste your energy on Leagues Cup. You'd rather save that for the regular season and going into the playoffs, of course.
Yeah, definitely for sure. But obviously I think that's just a decision that the team is going to make in general, right? Like, and like I said, like if they have the opportunity to go and win Leagues Cup, again, go for it. But again, if they want to really sacrifice their, going on the road to win Leagues Cup, like again, that's just a decision the team's going to have to make. But again, if they have the opportunity to do it, they definitely should go for it. But yeah. Leagues Cup, we'll see how that goes. Like we mentioned, their first game is against San Jose Earthquakes, and our second game is against Chivas de Guadalajara, which we will talk about that next week. Of course, we're going to just talk about San Jose now, and then once that game is over, we'll recap that and then talk about preview the Guadalajara game, which will be interesting considering I am a fan of Guadalajara as well. So that'll be an interesting game to preview for sure. But yeah, that's going to do it for the episode. Can't thank you guys enough for watching and listening. If you want to follow us, follow me at Insider Galaxy on Instagram, on X. Go follow the Galaxy Central on Instagram. And yeah, anything you want to say to listeners before we go?
No, hopefully we come out in Leagues Cup and take care of business against San Jose.
Yeah, definitely for sure. And hopefully, Ricky and Peck represent well at the All-Star game as well. So hopefully that they have some good representation there. But yeah, obviously there's a little bit of a break in a sense with the All-Star game and the San Jose game. So yeah, so it should be an interesting week for sure. But yeah, be a friend, tell a friend about the podcast, whenever you're listening to this podcast. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day, rest of your night. And yeah, thank you guys. And G's up.
7 words.